And now, head of the International Atomic Energy Agency says his visit to Iran has yielded a marked improvement in the course of cooperation between Tehran and the IAEA.
I believe that an improvement, a marked improvement, at least in terms of my dialogue with the Iranian government, has been registered. I think I was heard, and I hope we will be seeing results soon. We will see.
Grossi made the remarks at a news conference in Vienna upon returning from Tehran. He said he made an agreement with Iran that puts an end to what he called diminishing continuity of knowledge on Iran's nuclear program. Grossi said the agreement includes 50% more inspections of Iranian nuclear sites and the restoration of some IAEA monitoring activities stopped months ago. He said the IAEA will also get access to places and people of interest in his probe into what the agencies termed as uranium traces found at undeclared sites.
We have agreed that we are going to be moving on to concrete visits, concrete access to certain people of interest and certain material.
Grossi had that some follow-up between the IAEA experts and Iranian officials on technical issues will soon be held. Now on Saturday, Tehran and the agency issued a joint statement that summarized agreements made during Grossi's visit. It said Tehran has voiced readiness to provide the IAEA with more information and access in order to address remaining safeguards issues concerning cooperation between the two. The statement also says Iran will voluntarily allow the agency to conduct more verification and monitoring activities in case such activities are needed. During the two-day visit to Tehran, Rafael Grossi sat down for talks with Iran's nuclear chief and the president, as well as other senior officials. President Ebrahim Raisi told him that Tehran will continue to cooperate with the agency if it preserves its independence and defends the rights of the Iranian people. Joining us now from San Bernardino, California is Professor David Yaghoubian, Professor of History from Cal State University, San Bernardino. Hello, Professor. Hope you're safe and doing well out there. Now, Rafael Grossi returns back to Vienna, David, and he says he's seen a marked improvement of cooperation between the agency and the Iranian government. The Iranian government has all along felt that it's basically dealing with the agency very professionally, and hence it's the agency, in fact, that has been more politicized towards the Iranian government. What's your initial take on the fact that he feels now that there's been a stark improvement? He's going to get supposedly 50% more access. And what are the benefits here? Because we know this is completely independent of the JCPOA. So where are there concessions for the Iranians to engage the agency more, in the agency's perspective, more prudently here?
Great to be with you, Daniel. I think that in the context of what you mentioned, that is the continued politicization of the IAEA and organizations such as the OPCW, but that Grossi is simply himself, and the IAEA is in a bind. Therefore, being able to state that there's going to be some movement in regards to the safeguards issues, which is basically what the E3 and the U.S. continue to push, gives him some room to continue to pursue the potential saving of the JCPOA and the maintenance of the agreement. We all know that it was in December that Joe Biden, perhaps a bit off script, which he is generally these days, stated that for all intents and purposes he felt that the agreement was dead. And so by coming into this new spirit of cooperation and the joint statements made both by Grossi as well as President Raisi, simply remove this issue, the issue of the safeguards, from the table. So for those interested in maintaining the JCPOA, and so far this would not include the United States, which broke from the agreement and has not ever lived up to its obligations under the agreement. But for those who are interested in saving it, it's a good day. I would say as well, this spirit of cooperation in many ways it runs counter to the daily warmongering and saber rattling that we hear from the Israeli government and the United States. And so conflict is what the new Benjamin Netanyahu government needs to even stay afloat. Its days are numbered. And so to the extent this agreement, these statements, the spirit of cooperation extends the dialogue related to the JCPOA. This runs counter to the current U.S.-Israeli agenda.
And you know, and David, many of our viewers, they find this obscurity between JCPOA signatories, that accord, the Iranian government, and then the IAEA and its relationships, with the Iranian government, how they differ, how the Safeguards Agreement is completely independent from the JCPOA, and where they have overlapping similarities.
I mean, you correctly identified the complexity here. The IAEA is technically, supposedly, an independent organization. The safeguards issues do not relate directly to the JCPOA, and yet we have seen, especially since Donald Trump broke from the agreement in May of 2018, but really going back all the way to 2015 with the original signing of the agreement by the Obama administration, that the United States has not lived up to its obligations and has continued to try to bring in irrelevant issues which had nothing to do with the agreement, such as, for example, Iran's ballistic missile development, which we don't talk about anymore because it has nothing to do with the JCPOA. Therefore, though, again, I'll just say briefly, in the context of the daily Zionist and American warmongering against Iran and their war gaming and the potential for the potential bombing of civilian nuclear sites, Grossi needed to have a context to state clearly that this would be an illegal act, that is the bombing of any civilian nuclear infrastructure, and to find a way to propel the dialogue for the JCPOA forward. Let's remember, it's been almost 2 years since the talks in Vienna were established to enable ostensibly the Biden administration to live up to its promises and return to the agreement. This is also April of 2021 is when Israel continued to engage in sabotage activities against Iran's civilian energy project. Therefore, again, this agreement statements, this positive spirit of cooperation flies in the face of this daily warmongering that, as you state, though, it is tangential to the JCPOA. I'll just say, though, hopefully I've helped viewers to understand how these dynamics are interrelated, even though they technically should not be.
And they technically should not be, and I'm glad you mentioned that, David, because it's very easy for the West, in particular Washington, to try to make this strategic effort where they're trying to perhaps incrementally pull elements of Iran's nuclear program into the purview of the IAEA, hence without having to give Iran any concessions, without having to, basically give it a relief from sanctions as per the JCPOA. And it's very important for Rafael Grossi to obviously see that, and I'm sure that he does, the agency does, and keep the West at bay from doing just that.
I believe he's truly on the fence, or if you will, between a rock and a hard place. The IAEA heads of the OPCW, heads of the International Criminal Court have been threatened. Their children have been threatened by members of the U.S. government, specifically Mike Pompeo and John Bolton. Therefore, especially with the interest, ostensibly, again, in the IAEA maintaining this critically important piece of nonproliferation architecture, if you will, the JCPOA, it's understandable that he's going to try to maneuver in between the pressure of the E3 and the United States and the realities and the technical details of the 150-page JCPOA. So what today does is enables a little bit of breathing room, a little bit of space for dialogue to continue, and for example, the letter of the JCPOA to be returned to, such that and I believe the statements of the Raisi administration were that, should additional monitoring be necessary, should additional information be necessary. So the negotiating team, the Raisi administration, certainly been around the block several times with the IAEA regarding the tenets of the JCPOA. So I'm confident that they know what they're doing. I have a feeling, based on the statements of Grossi, that as well he knows what he's doing, and that specifically what he's doing in this particular exchange is extending the life of the JCPOA and making it much, much more difficult than it would have been for the United States and Israel to unleash the war that they both covet.
All right, bud. Always interesting to check in with you. Thank you, David, and stay safe from San Bernardino, California. Professor David Yaghoubian there joining us.